I believe you got to be focused on something. I have always struggled with that in the past, is being too diversified, too many brands, too many different channels. And I think that's kind of held us back because it's really hard to be excellent at everything. So I have learned to just focus. And the last 6 months, we are dialed in.
Treading water is the same as drowning to people like you and me. You better start swimming. Welcome to the show. I'm your host, Rob Green.
Well, welcome to today's podcast. We've got Abbey Kline, who I've seen on TikTok. I've watched interviews with her on YouTube, and I'm very excited to talk about TikTok, TikTok shops, content creation, next steps for her. So welcome to the podcast, Abbey.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to meet you and so excited to talk to somebody who is as interested in this as I am.
Some people would say addicted, maybe, Abbey. I have been all in on TikTok the last 6 months. A few of my friends are giving me a hard time because they're like, listen, man, the podcast, TikTok. Your life, TikTok. And I'm like, listen, I believe you got to be focused on something. I have always struggled with that in the past, is being too diversified, too many brands, too many different channels. And I think that's kind of held us back because it's really hard to be excellent at everything. So I have learned to just focus. And the last 6 months, we are dialed in on TikTok, and that's all we talk about, and using it as a platform on the seller side, whereas you're on the content side. So tell us a little bit about your journey.
Yeah, so I relate so much to that. I am also obsessed with TikTok at this point because there's been nothing else in my life that I've tried that has been this successful and has been this crazy and amazing of a ride. I have been an entrepreneur my whole life. I dropped out of college after a couple of years of photography school because I was like, I can do this on my own. Started a photography business, quickly started doing wedding photography. So I did that for about 10, 12 years, had kids, was doing the whole pretty much part-time entrepreneurship thing with my kids, had a few other entrepreneurial ventures in there. And then I started doing video content just out of necessity, seeing that's the way the world is going. Photography is great. It's my passion, but video content is where it's at. So I started out doing content for brands like UGC side of stuff. And then I was actually in a group, kind of a mastermind thing that was really pushing TikTok shop and saying, go all in, just do it. And I'm very thankful to them because if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't have gotten in it. So I did it for about a month before I saw any real traction. And then one day I had a video go viral. It's at like over 20 million views now. But that one video ended up making me more money than I've ever made in my life of all my other entrepreneurial adventures combined. So that quickly showed me, okay, this is what I need to be focusing on.
I don't want to sound like a stalker or anything, Abbey, but is this the Tarte Cosmetics
Absolutely.
video?
Yeah, it's not stalkering, it's doing your research. But yes, it was for Tarte.
No, I remember seeing it. I remember seeing it a couple months ago, and I'm like, that is genius. I'm like, because you basically went in there and said, hey, this is what they're charging in the store. Here's the product. You can get it on TikTok shops, and it's this much. And it was wasn't it like a bundle or something like that?
Yeah, and to this day, that format does best for me. I actually just today, before we filmed this, was back in the store doing a video fairly similar because the algorithm and the people like what they like. And one piece of advice I always give creators is when something works for you, lean into it and keep doing more of it.
And when did that video pop off? What
that was
time
beginning
frame
of March.
Was that like May,
March.
April? Beginning of March. Okay. So this is all still, is 6 months. Like it's all happened in 6 months. That's the part that's so exciting to me and I've interviewed a few other creators, like lives have changed in a very, very short period of time, financially speaking, in a very short period of time. And now you're taking this to the next level, right? So you've done it on your own. You flip from one side of the camera to the other and done all the content creation. And now we were talking a little bit before we started recording, you're now in that amazing opportunity of what do I do next? I got all these opportunities. Where do I want to go next? And I talked to a lot of creators, and I think you've been more successful than most of them that I've talked to with a GMV and a commission perspective. How do you balance or how do you decide what to do next? Because you've got so many great opportunities.
Right. So that's a great question. And like we talked about a little bit before, one thing I do struggle with as an entrepreneur and an ADHD entrepreneur is shiny object syndrome and jumping from one thing to the next thing. So I've tried as best I can to focus in on what's working for me, like I said, and not get too distracted by everything else. So there are a few different opportunities that have come up from this, but I've really tried to focus on sticking with making the content that makes me money. Right now, it's the makeup, skincare content that does best for me. But that being said, I know how the world works. I know how TikTok works, and I don't want to put all my eggs in that basket. So I do want to diversify somehow without getting distracted. So one thing I do love is teaching other people, coaching other people, girls specifically, women. That's a big passion of mine, just because I've come from the place of not feeling like it was necessarily possible for me to support our family 100% on my own without myself going out and getting a 9 to 5 job, which was something I didn't want to do. And so this has really opened my eyes. And I know that there's countless other women out there who are in the same position as me and who would love to be able to make life-changing money while not having to go into a 9 to 5.
I mean, I'm a big fan of community. I co-founded a mastermind 7 years ago of e-commerce business owners. Best decision I ever made. I 100% agree that most entrepreneurs try to do it alone. I did in the beginning. And then once you find your tribe and you work as a community, whether it's a mastermind or an online community, whatever it might be, or coaching or workshops, everything gets easier. It's truly the cheat code, in my opinion. And so many people, and I've even had this a few times, they get stuck on, I'm going to spend $50 a month or whatever the number is, $100 a month. And it's like, if you're serious about this is the cheapest investment of all time, because you're buying time. And I think too many people don't understand, like plenty of people buy courses and never finish them, or they buy books and don't read them. Whereas a community, to me, is an investment. And that investment, especially with TikTok changing as fast as it is, that seems like an absolute no-brainer for anybody that's in a new ecosystem that's moving at the speed at which TikTok is moving.
Absolutely. Could not agree more. And that is when I noticed the jump in my career. Like I'd been grinding on content creation on my own for a couple of years on Instagram and whatever. And when I decided to start taking things seriously and invest in myself, okay, it did feel kind of like a jump to pay $100 a month for a group, but I learned in that group more than I would have learned in 10 years of doing it on my own. And that's what really just catapulted me. So that's the same thing I'm telling people now. Like, I just want to pay it forward and help women specifically do what I did. Yeah,
That's awesome.
just shorten the amount of time, because there really is something about, and just being around the like-minded people too, just pouring into that encouragement to you all the time. And it changes everything, really.
Yeah, we have our mastermind next week. We get together in person every 4 months. Usually we just do it here in Scottsdale, but we're doing it in Seattle so we can meet with TikTok and Amazon. And it's awesome because everybody has to give a presentation and deliver value. And then you see ideas transform. One person will have one idea, the next person stacks on top, another person stacks on top, and you come away with a much better concept or process or a framework, right? Because that's the true synergy of all those ideas, where I don't care how smart you are by yourself, you're never as smart as the crowd, especially in an invested crowd in getting better. I would love to, if it's okay with you, I'd love to workshop, just you and I, spitball, some of your opportunities. Because I think this is a very difficult and common problem amongst people, is like, I had no opportunities. Now I have too many. How do I select? So can you give me maybe like the top 3 or 4 that you're considering of taking time and energy putting into? What are the 3 or 4 that most appeal to you about some of these?
Sure. So I think I definitely want to go into a coaching community route of some sort, just because, like I said, that's where I came from, and I see the immense value in that and the immense opportunity for growth on my end. You can only make so many videos in a day, and you can only make so many shoppable things in a month. And I want to be able to scale my income where I'm not completely tied down to doing the grunt work, so to speak, because that caps off at a certain amount. So I've got that. I could also do one-on-one coaching, just find people that way. I definitely have thought about going the agency route, like getting creators under me, outsourcing or sourcing products for them. My road bump there is, if that's the word, is I don't know how to do that. I've researched it. I don't know how one becomes an agency, and that feels like a very large undertaking. I think I could do it, but like I said, I don't want to bite off something so big that then I don't have time to create the content that's making me so much money every month. So those are the 3 things I've thought about.
can I add brand as number 4? Is that a
Absolutely. Go
consideration
for
too, or
it.
not?
The only reason it's not on my list is because I have no idea what goes into that. And so I'm like, I don't currently at this time, I don't want to spend so much time educating, like learning a brand new skill. And to me, that felt a little bit too brand new.
Okay. All right. So I've got community coaching, one-on-one coaching. So I consider community coaching like one-to-many approach. And then you've got the one-on-one coaching opportunity. Then you've got the agency, and then you've got the brand option. Okay. How much time would you say the current income stream from the affiliates, how much time does that take you like per week?
So that's a tough question because if you're counting just when you press record and you're filming, it's like, yeah, exactly. It's 3 hours a week. If you count mentally,
Everything.
yeah, it's literally 24 hours a day. Like I dream about TikTok. So there's that. I can divide it if I need to. So now I'm dividing my mental power a little bit into my community that I launched. But really, when I'm not doing stuff as a mom, I'm doing stuff for TikTok. So
Have you considered what are the tasks in the process that you could delegate now or hire somebody to
yeah,
help you with?
absolutely. So I have a virtual assistant who does a lot of my day-to-day tasks that she can, because like I said, if I'm not doing creative TikTok stuff, it's hands-on around the house, stuff like that I really need, or not, sorry.
Yeah.
I have two assistants. I have a virtual assistant and I have an in-person assistant who comes once a week to help me with household stuff, which has been a game changer because quite frankly, laundry doesn't exist in my brain because only TikTok video ideas exist in my brain. So I've delegated some of that, which has been a huge game changer. I struggle with what else could I delegate because really all I'm doing as far as content creation goes is coming up with ideas, pressing record. The editing takes me no time at all on TikTok shop videos, just for the nature of how they are, which is why I love them. So I don't really know what else I would outsource at this point.
Yeah, I wonder if there's anything else that you're doing that, maybe you're okay at or you're good at, but you don't really enjoy in the process that you could find somebody else that really has a passion around that piece of it. I mean, obviously finding ideas and products takes a little bit of time, right? I mean, I think you probably have a process for that now. But once you identify the products, you get the samples, and then you shoot the videos, are you using anything to create a framework for videos or anything like that? Or are you just kind of being the creative person at home, coming up with a script and writing it and then
to be honest, I don't script out my videos. I think about a hook and then I think about a hook and then I press record and then it just flows from there just because that's how I work. I actually one thing I didn't mention that I am doing that does take more of my time is I also manage social media for a local chain of grocery stores in my state. So I'm the content creator for them. So we post 3 videos a week currently for them. So that takes a little more manpower time because I do drive to the stores. I usually am getting employees involved in the shooting of them. So that one is a little more time consuming, but I actually work for an agency kind of who does that stuff. I'm partnered with somebody. So next year we're talking about if we sign another contract, bringing someone on under me who can do more of the day-to-day tasks and I can be more of the creative tasks.
Okay, so I'm going to give you my framework that I use when all these opportunities arise. I try to think about them as number one. Well, first of all, do you have a framework that you utilize for how you make decisions? And I'll share mine with you to give you an idea. So it's like a statement of intention, essentially. We did like a workshop a couple of years ago, my wife and I, with somebody. But it's like I choose a life of growth and learning through playfulness that is successful. So those are my priorities. So am I going to learn? Am I going to grow? Is it fun? Is it playful? And then does it turn out to be successful?
I love that.
Do you have anything that you utilize around a framework for what you
I don't, but I love that idea. I think that sounds like that could be something that's very helpful. This was something I was just talking with my husband about because I struggle with, the mom guilt of wanting to be around as much as possible, wanting to not be completely work obsessed, but quite frankly, that's my personality and that's who I am, which I think you can relate to as an entrepreneur. And my husband was just saying to me, you know, we want you to be the best version of you that you can be, though. So I was feeling like, oh, maybe I should work less, maybe I should hustle less. And he was saying, I don't think that's going to be the best version of you, because like you said, I always want to be learning. I always want to be trying something new and succeeding at the things that I try. I don't know how to do something halfway. I'm all or nothing. So that's definitely, yeah, if I could apply a framework like that to what else I take on, that could be helpful.
I think balance is a misnomer. I think that the only way I have found it to work for me is integration. So the kids are involved with what we do. They understand the business. They understand the TikTok. They understand shops. They understand Amazon. They understand. I took my 10-year. Well, she was 10 at the time. I took her to China with me. I mean, like integration to me, because I do agree with what your husband said. Like being all in or being the best version of you is the best thing. So I don't think about it like as an either or as much. I try to think about it like an integration, and how do I integrate the kids into the business? How do I integrate the business into our life? And that doesn't work for everybody, but for me that has seemed to work well. And sometimes they're more interested than others in different aspects of the business.
Yeah.
Right? So that's worked for me. But I think of framework. So when I think about your options, I'm biased towards brands. That's just me and my experience. But it's really, really hard. And what I mean by that is there's a lot of steps in terms of procurement, manufacturing quality products, logistics, supply chain. I mean, that is one thing that people really underestimate. And I did too when I started building brands, is that forecasting demand is borderline impossible. With TikTok, it is impossible. You don't know especially in the beginning, am I going to sell 5 tomorrow? Or if it goes viral, am I going to sell 500?
Right.
So how do I maintain stock, or how do I predict to buy units for that problem it's an educated guess at best, right? So that's the biggest thing I see people make mistakes with the brand side. But I know that wasn't your primary top 3, but I think you should really consider it, because if you're building a following, if you're building a community of people that could be affiliates to help you promote a product, you've got kind of that machine already built out that you could utilize to activate a brand that you start. And that really is how I see TikTok today. Is it's top of funnel, it's activation, it's getting all of these. We have a brand we just started a couple months ago. We put it on TikTok, and I was talking to my account manager yesterday. I think we have it in 308,000 people's showcase or something like that. I hadn't even heard that number before. And she's like, well, how many do you have? And she looked it up, and I was like, I don't know, like 10,000, 5, I don't know. And she's like, 308,000 showcases. I'm like, that seems impossible to me, right? That seems unbelievable number, right? And so there's all of these things that you have to try to do around the brand side that I think is challenging, balancing what you're already doing. So I would say for you, that's probably not the top priority unless you partner with somebody. I love what you're doing with community. I think the one-to-many approach is definitely scalable. The one-to-one coaching is borderline impossible to scale unless you bring other people underneath you, which in my experience has been high. It's hard to, if you're really as dedicated as you are and OCD about it. I put OCD on you, sorry.
It's probably
I don't know if that's true or not. But I'm OCD about it, so I get a little OCD about it. But it's a challenge to hire somebody else to be a coach underneath you that may or may not have the same passion or expertise that you do to be that one up, because you're gonna have high expectations. I can already feel it from you now. You're gonna have really high expectations if they're putting your name on it in a one-on-one coaching situation, because they're representing you. So I think one-on-one coaching might be a starting point for you to get people into the community to do the one-to-many approach. Do you think about, when you think about this and you envision this, let's go 2 years down the road, what would be an ideal scenario for Abbey in her life? Like, what does her day-to-day look like? Is it a one-to-many? Are you doing workshops once a month? Are you doing seminars? Are you doing in-person masterminds? Like, what does a dream situation look like?
That's a great question. So I do love travel. And as my kids get older, I foresee myself being available to do more of that. So if I was able to do more traveling for in-person events, coaching and stuff like that, that would be really cool. I'd be interested in that. I would love to build out a coaching community or program or something enough to where I was making as much, if not more, than I'm making as a TikTok Shop affiliate right now. So that, as we talked about before, the TikTok Shop is so up and down with your commissions. You can't control it. So I would love if my TikTok Shop commissions could just be a little bit extra on top of really good money that I'm making elsewhere, using my expertise to coach people, or any other avenues that happen to come up.
So it's interesting. We've kind of lived similar lives in terms of that regard. We live in Phoenix, and it's hotter than Hades here in the summer. So when I first started doing e-commerce 13 years ago, that was the goal, is to get out of corporate America and have the ability to travel for the entire summer. So that's why I chose e-commerce, was able to start doing that. And that allows us to leave.
So I want to leave.
Kids get out of school, we're gone.
I want to leave for the entire winter.
There you go. See, that's the school part throws a little bit of a wrench in that, I will say, but that's that. We travel spring break, summertime, fall break, sometimes at Christmas, but every 3 primary breaks we travel, because we love to travel also. And I think that you can build something around that. Now, you mentioned agency. There are a lot of, so I have a bias against agencies, not in creator agencies, but just like overall. And the reason I say this is because I've been doing e-commerce for 13 years, and most agencies that I've run into overpromise and
absolutely, yes.
And it's not necessarily their fault, but what happens is you get someone like yourself who's dedicated, who starts something, and then they have to hire people who may not be as dedicated. So as they get size, they can't deliver the same efforts that you could deliver, or same quality that you would deliver on a one-to-one. That's been my experience. There are a lot of agencies in this TikTok world right now. I mean, a lot of them. And most of them that I've spoken to don't seem reputable. I'll be as kind as I can on this. So I do think there's a huge opportunity there to build a reputable agency on that side of things. Tell me about what you have experienced as a creator with creator side of the agency.
So 100% same thing you've experienced. I feel like every creator I talk to, when I ask, do you like the agency you're with? They say, they're okay. I'm not blown away by them. They promised me a lot and they're okay. Like, basically, it's a nice safety net to have. If you get violations on TikTok, they can usually help speed up the process to help your account get back to healthy. My agency, they don't source me a lot of product. I do most of my brand deals sourcing myself, or even from external agencies. I have external agencies sending me stuff that I don't even know how they got my info. So I'm like, okay, cool. But really, it is just kind of I would love, if I was to go that route, I would love to provide more value than the typical agency does. Now, that being said, I don't know much about the back end, about their end. So maybe there's a reason why that's all they do. It's interesting to me. But for myself, I could foresee, let's say I have a community of a ton of badass women creators who really are hungry and want to crush it. I would love to be able to just be a one-stop shop, say, hey, let me help you, let me connect you with brands, or to brands say, hey, I've got all these awesome creators, let me connect you. And that's honestly what the mastermind that I joined originally, that's kind of the route they're going right now. And it just kind of seems like a nice natural progression of things. But like I said, I'd have to bring on team members for sure. I don't think it's something I could do all on my own.
No, do not try to do that on your own, Abby. That would be very, very difficult. Okay, so I know a little bit about the agencies, and specifically with the TikTok side of things from a creator perspective. Do you understand? Do you have any insights on the business model?
I do not. I would love to hear about it, because the only thing I've only been able to make assumptions based on my experience with them.
Okay, so I just had a call with my TikTok account manager yesterday, and basically there is inside the platform for sellers, there is an opportunity to have what they call an agency initiated connection, or there's a seller initiated connection. So how it typically works is, let's say I'm selling ABC brand, and you're with an agency, and my commission structure is 20%. That's what we're paying right now to all open collabs. Open collabs is anybody that comes on board, it's 20%. What you typically do as a seller, I have to agree to a 10% more is usually what I'm seeing. So now I have to pay the agency 30%, and then the agency will negotiate with the content creator to determine how much of that they keep and how much the content creator keeps. And so that is purely a negotiation. So I think some people are not passing anything on to the creators. And I think some people are passing, a significantly higher portion.
Sure.
That feels like a win-win to me if we're able to source higher quality creators than using the platform and what we currently do. Because the way we do it now with affiliates, most of the creative we get is not great. Not ad worthy, let's put it that way. Oh, and I want to talk to you about ads too. Well, let's talk about ads for sure, because this is the bane of my existence is getting Spark codes lately, Abby. So, okay, so let's talk about that. So that's the way I understand the agency. If you have a group of creators, that seems like a really easy next level is an agency that is aligned with TikTok, that allows you to have access and do it the right way. To me, 50-50 seems fair, where the agency keeps 5% and the creator gets an additional 5%. Then it's a value add.
Yeah. So what's interesting is as creators, most agencies approach you and say, we won't take any of your commission. And they just say to you, like, because they're not taking any of your, let's say open source, they're offering 20%. They're going to say, hey, when you make a sale, we're not going to take any of that 20%. What they don't tell you is we're being offered more and we're passing on the normal 20%. Now, the smart agencies do help you negotiate higher than open source. So a lot of the agencies I do work with say the open plan is 12% with this brand. Usually this agency says, hey, if you use my link, you get 18%. So that's understandable. But they definitely all frame it up as, oh, with us, we won't take any percentage off your, and I'm like, you're making money somehow. So
so by the way, that's great advice. There's a piece of advice in there that you just went over that's super important. When I talk to any agency and they try to tell me that there's, you keep all your money or whatever, as a seller, I just go, great. How do you make money? Don't be afraid to anybody, whether you're a content creator, you're a seller, ask that question. Walk me through all of the ways you make money so I can understand if we're properly aligned. Because I want anybody I work with to be rowing in the same direction. Like I want them to be working with me, because let's say the agency is asking for 20% for themselves. As a brand owner, I probably don't want to work with you if I got to pay double what I'm normally paying on an open collab. So they can sometimes get too greedy that actually hurts the performance of the creator. So I think that's really important, is finding an agency, which, I mean, this is always a challenge. Finding somebody you trust to work with, that's a middleman or an agency is really difficult. But I think there's an empty space out there, Abby, that I have confidence you could find and you could fill and build trust and credibility with them. Can we talk about ads?
Sure.
Okay, so I would love your take on Spark codes and ads from a creator.
Okay, great. Because this is a very hot topic with creators, because as with all things TikTok, there's no real playbook. There's no real TikTok tells you, hey, this is exactly what you should do. It's figuring out stuff every single day. They launch new terms and policies every day. So from creators, from us, it seems like a benefit to give a brand my Spark code. But there are a lot of shady brands out there who will take that and run with it to the point that sometimes they'll take your Spark code and then they'll bump your commission down very, very far. Now, TikTok has recently launched a commission protection where at 30 days you're at least protected. That's great, but a lot of brands want more than 30 days Spark codes. So that you could get in trouble there. A lot of times, once you give a Spark code, a brand will just kind of take your video and run wild with it and put it on Facebook and put it all different places. So I don't know. There is a lot of distrust on the creator side for giving out codes. In my opinion, I still usually do it because it's like, 9 times out of 10, it's going to get me more sales if they run the ad. But unfortunately, you do run into brands who aren't good and who take advantage.
Okay, great. This is going to be a good conversation because I want to give you the seller side of it. Okay. So I can download any video I want from TikTok without a Spark code, and I can repurpose that video. I mean, anybody's video, not like a creator. Anybody's video is downloadable from TikTok. There are tons of talk downloaders, right? Okay, so that Spark code doesn't really enable me to download or repost. The way we utilize it is only to run ads on TikTok shops on TikTok. So just for everyone's reference, we typically, somebody either requests a sample from us or we reach out to somebody, we give them a sample, they create a video. And what we do is we track every single creator, Abby. We built a script and we built a process for this. So we see every single day how many likes, views, shares, orders, everything from every video of every creator. We have a separate process for this. Then anybody that meets certain metrics, we run a script on that and we say, okay, this is a potential ad. So they've got 1,000 views or 50 likes or whatever the metric is we decide. Then we manually review the video and we say, someone on the team does and says, okay, I'm going to go green, yellow, red. This is a good video. This is a okay video, or, oh my God, I don't want to put ads behind this, right? We've already asked for the Spark code. We will ask again if it's green or yellow to try to get the Spark code. I need the Spark code to be able to run ads as of today. I think they're going to change it. By the way.
I have a question for you on that. So there are times when I've had brands run ads on my videos when I did not give them Spark codes. And for instance, Tarte. I have never given Tarte a code, and they, on those top performing videos, to my knowledge, it was Tarte. I mean, it could have been TikTok in general, I guess, but I've had them run ads.
Okay. There's a workaround. Did you have a brand partnership with Tarte, or no brand partnership? So if we do like if we do a brand partnership together, there is an opportunity with a QR code. Is there any chance you scanned a QR code?
No, I tried so hard to get in contact with Tarte when my video was blowing up. You have no idea. I reached out to them on every avenue. They would not reply to any of my DMs or emails, but that video was being run as ads.
I mean, we use software all the time. I can actually look at the software and see how much they spent on ads with that to promote it. We use a couple different software tools to look at all this data. But I mean, listen, Abby, I want to know how they did it because I can't do it.
It's crazy.
Unless you scan a QR code or give me the Spark code, the QR code is great because if you scan the QR code, anything that you create from a video perspective that has tagged my product or my brand, I have access to all those videos to run them without Spark codes. So if you're going to do like 5 videos with me, scan the QR code. I don't have to get Spark codes. You don't have to do authorizations. You don't have to do length of time, any of that stuff. It's really simple. So we've done that.
Okay, yeah.
But the one-off stuff, we need Spark code. Yeah, if you have a relationship with a brand, the QR code is way better. So what we do is, I'll give you our process too, and tell me what how this feels. So we say, okay. And I'm a big ads guy, so not everybody's an ads guy. I am a big ads. I'm a believer in ads. I will test ads because I don't know what's going to work. So we put a budget behind every green and yellow ad. And so typically we start with like $30 to $40 a day. We target the demographics for the product. We run the ads. We see how the ads perform. If the ads don't perform well, we turn them off. Yep. Simple as that. If they perform well, I ramp up budget like crazy. So I have unlimited budget for profitable activities. So if we make money on it, I have an unlimited budget.
I love that.
There's no reason to stop. Too many people have the mindset where they think, oh, I've got a $200 budget day for it. There's no cap. Like we keep going. Like I've got one right now, this woman, she's created like 4 or 5 videos for us. I have an $1,100 a day budget for one of her videos. So I think she's done, yesterday, I think she did like 50 or 60 sales off of the ad alone yesterday. So, just off the ad, not the organic.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like, okay, so in my head, I'm like, all right, listen, I spent $1,000 yesterday. Let's just say we did $1,000 in sales. This easy numbers. Pay 20%. She made $200 extra yesterday. She wasn't going to make without the ads. So it feels like such a win-win for me. And I understand why TikTok did it a little bit, but I feel like there's a friction and a lot of misinformation out there because we keep reaching out. Like this morning, I sent a message to my team. I'm like, I got like 40 videos I want to run ads on. I don't have spark codes.
That's so interesting. That's so interesting. I love to hear that because it's definitely still a conversation I hear all the time from creators is, do I give my code? And I always say yes, because really it's just more money for you if they run the ads. And a lot of times I tell creators, if you've got a video that's performing well, DM the brand and just send them your code because they're busy. So it sounds like from your perspective, if you had a creator DMing you, hey, here's my code, you'd be psyched.
Great. Nobody does that. Yes, 100%. We would love that. 100% would love, because what we do when a video works, and we haven't had anything really pop off viral, to be honest with you, from an organic perspective. So when that happens, anytime there's some success, we reach back out to the creator and say, hey, listen, here's what happened yesterday or the last 3 days. We're running ads. They're working. Do you want to create more videos? Because if you do, we'll run ads behind those too. So like this feels like a partnership to me. And I hesitate to say this, but I feel like there's like a disconnect between sellers. And I know that there's always bad actors. Don't get me wrong. There are bad actors from a brand perspective. There are plenty of creators who take samples and don't create videos. Like I'd say 30%, honestly. So it's a big number. It's a surprisingly big number. We've given out hundreds and hundreds of units of people who have not created videos. So I just see that as friction.
I was just going to say, I do think TikTok rolled this out to some people. I was going to say one thing that I think would help immensely with that is not having the 2-week limit on 2-week time frame to create a video. And I do think on some people's profiles, they have the ability to request an extension. I don't have it on mine yet. So like all things TikTok, they roll things out. Nobody knows why they got invited to a certain program. Nobody knows why they got beta access to that program. But some of my creator friends do have the ability to request an extension. And that to me is huge because for me, when I get samples, I feel like having the timeline instantly takes all the creativity out of my brain. Because if it's like the reason that I do what I do is because I can't turn on my creativity at a certain time when I say, you know what I mean? Like, it's just, I think of stuff on the fly. I think of stuff as I go. So if I have a sample that's sitting there and I know, okay, by this time I have to create it, it's almost like I end up creating content that's not near as organic or as creative as the ones that I just come up with. So that's honestly, I really limit my sample requests. I know creators who are doing tons and tons and tons of different brands, but I personally have the best success with my videos when I'm just doing products that I actually use and like and have used for a while. So that's just my strategy as a creator. And I think that's why you end up having a lot of creators not making samples, because if they're getting, 50 samples this month and they've got a timeline for all of them, some of them they're just not going to be able to think of anything for.
I mean, I've looked at some of the top creators and it shows like 162 products in the past 30 days. Like the numbers are bananas. Like I can see in the software how many products they've done in a month, and it'll be a crazy number, 150, 160. I mean, it's an insane number. So I definitely get that side. It feels like you're pushing creators.
Right. And honestly, like maybe they're cashing in more than I am, but what works for me is my videos just don't do well if I'm like factory line getting them done. So that's just
I think it makes sense. I think that makes a ton of sense. What about TikTok do you feel most excited about, like moving forward? I mean, obviously it's been a whirlwind last 6 months. I feel like it's iterating at a rate that I've never seen before. I mean, I get emails from them every day about some new program or new this, new that. What do you think about, the longevity of this? I know a lot of people are worried about it getting shut down. I have no fear of it getting shut down personally. How do you think about this as you put the time and energy into something,
right?
Moving
so
forward?
I agree. I have no fear of it getting shut down. There's too much money in it. I'm not worried about it at all. I do worry about from a creator standpoint, the saturation of more creators getting in. I feel like that's what happens with anything, right? when you're an early adopter, it's always going to be easier to make the money and make the sales. And that's why I'm trying to diversify my income streams as much as I can, just trying to think forward. And personally right now, as creators, at least me and the creators I know, we have a little beef because TikTok is pushing live streams so much more than they're pushing short videos.
Yeah.
And from people who, the reason we chose this path is because we like to not have to go to a 9-to-5 job that ties us down. The amount they want you to live stream in order to hit the huge GMV numbers is a very large time commitment. And it's more active income rather than passive. So videos for me are pretty passive income because once you create them, they're done and they make you money. A lot goes into it, but you don't have to be working to be making money. And on live streams, you have to be working to be making money. So that's just I'm hoping, like you said, TikTok always, every day is launching a new thing. Right now, their thing is they're telling everyone, go live, do live streams. I'm hoping that they go back to pushing short videos. The traffic on short videos when I first started was crazy. If it had a link, if it had a TikTok shop link, that video was getting pushed out, whether it was a great video or not. That's not really the case anymore. And so I would love to see it go back in that direction, but who knows?
What are your thoughts on AI and I'll call them Canva slideshows, some of the other like alternatives, photo carousels to like a traditional like short video? I see a lot more of these on TikTok myself.
I don't know. Some people really have great success with the AI videos. It's just nothing that's appealed to me because just of the nature of it. It's just not. I think it could be a thing. I don't know. There's always going to be those ups and downs, fads of things. Slideshows, I've tried some, haven't seen a huge success. Like I said, I'll try anything, and if it works, I'll keep going. But right now, for me, it's still short videos, and I'm hoping to hold on to that.
So have you ever seen, there's a site out there, a company called icon.me that I saw recently. And what they're doing is really interesting. They're essentially licensing your likeness as a creator. Then they're using AI to build an avatar. And then they're connecting to a brand. And then the brand is paying essentially a royalty to say, hey, Abby, this avatar is going to look like you and talk like you and say, hey, this is the best product I've ever used. Apparently, my understanding is the creator still has approval on scripts and that. Have you seen any of that or thought about that?
I have seen some. And at this point in time, it is not something I would never license my likeness unless you're going to come to me with $50 million, maybe. I don't know. I don't know what the number would be, but it just seems far too, I mean, your personal brand is the one thing, is the most valuable thing you have. I don't think I've heard of many creators who are willing to sign themselves over for AI. I have had a few creator friends who have done a video here or there for one of those apps, and they have gone on to use them for something that the creator didn't approve of, and then it's been a big thing. So in my opinion, it's kind of a big risk for creators right now. But I am also very intentionally not one to say, oh, there's a new technology, it's bad. I am very pro AI in creating art. And even as a photographer, you know, when Photoshop AI came out, a lot of photographers got very like, oh, well, that's not, you know, and honestly, I love it. I use it all the time. I think it's a very cool tool. So I am more pro use the things to your advantage, or else you're going to get left behind. So I'm not going to say I would never do it, but right now I don't see the benefits of it really.
You know, it's funny, that argument, because I'm a pro technology person. And it's funny because those same photographers that are probably complaining they were probably all using mirrorless DSLR cameras and complaining about technology taking away things. And they're on, I mean, the cameras we have in this room are, I think they're like a couple $1,000 a piece, like the Sonys. I mean, that's technology. Like, you're not running on an old Kodak, you know, from the 1970s. That's technology advancement. So I think people that we're trying to embrace as much AI as we can on the team and build automations and things like that. So we talked through a couple of things here. Staying focused, next steps for you. After this, I don't know if this helped at all for you, to be honest. But I love the idea of the community for you, and I love the idea of maybe the agency if you built a team out. I think the one-on-one coaching is gonna overwhelm you really, really fast.
Yeah. So my plan as I'm building the community is if I see fit, like right now I'm still at a free level on my community. I'm kind of seeing maybe taking on some one-on-one calls to build my case studies and to build my social proof of, hey, join my community because this is what I helped this person do. But yeah, I don't see it long term as a solution. I definitely see the one-to-many approach working better. And yeah, like I said, like, I don't know, I'm open to anything that can help me scale beyond just being a one person show as a creator who makes all my money on TikTok.
I mean, when we're building out communities, we spend money on advertising. I'm an ads guy, so like I'm fairly aggressive in that. How do you plan on growing the community? I mean, is it just going to be an organic, or do you think you'll run ads?
I'm glad that you brought that up because it's something I've been debating. So right now, how I'm getting people is just doing content on TikTok, and obviously that works well because what I'm talking about is TikTok, so everyone's on there. I would say I'm getting in between 5 and 10 new members a day. 10 is a good day. I launched 3 weeks ago.
Wow,
yeah, I launched 3 weeks ago and I am up to 166 members, I think. So not bad. It is still free. So I'm wondering conversion rates. Thank you. I'm wondering conversion rates, how it will go once I do switch. Once I do offer a paid aspect, I have so many questions about jumping from free. I think I'm going to keep my free ticket. Kind of as my funnel, just get people in there, get people in the community. But then I struggle with knowing what to charge for next level, what to include in the next level, what is reasonable to ask of myself to include. Like, is it like everyone who pays gets one-on-one access to me? Is it more courses? I kind of struggle with courses because I think my value, like I like this kind of dialogue when teaching. So I like group calls a lot. Is it just more frequent group calls? And what are people going to pay for that is my next question. Anyways, and do I need to run ads, pay for running ads to come to my group? I think, love your thoughts.
Number one, no, I'm a data guy also. So like number one, do you know your current conversion rate?
I'm not a data girl at all.
Okay. So the number one thing you want to know is what is your conversion rate on the visitors to the sign up page, and you can get that inside the community. It's in the software, and you can go and see what your conversion rate is. So for a free on that platform, the average is 10%. Just so you know. On a paid, the average conversion on that platform is 2%. So obviously, if you're above average, awesome, but that gives you an idea of how effective paid ads might be. So let's say you're at 10% and you're paying 50 cents to get every person over there. You're basically paying $5, to get one new member. So again, it can get expensive and it's an investment. And then you can later on decide, and we've had this challenge too. Is it a free community that then becomes a paid community? Is it a free community and then we have a paid community where people that are serious move over to that? Pricing, I mean, that's a whole nother can of worms. I mean, I've seen some communities between 39 and 100 in this category, 39, 50, 100. The 39 and the 50 have way more members than the 100. But I don't know what the 100 is doing to do that, right? So there's a lot of ways. I'm a marketing guy. There's a lot of ways. Once you know the numbers, you can really build out a model of how much you should spend on advertising. So imagine you were charging $50 a month. Let's just use an easy number. If the average person stays 4 months, that person's lifetime value is $200 to you. So essentially, every person you acquire for less than $200 is profitable. This goes back to my unlimited budget idea. So then I have an unlimited budget to acquire as many customers as I can under $200. Now, the problem with that formula is you're only getting $50 the first month.
Right.
So if you're paying like $150 to acquire a customer and they're paying $50 a month for 4 months, you're burning $100 right away. Every customer. So it can become really expensive but that's the high growth model that allows you to understand, okay, once I know my LTV, once I know my cost per acquisition, I can merge those, I can take those two numbers and I can say, great, if my LTV is higher, let's step on the gas. As long as I have the cash flow that doesn't burn out too much money in the beginning.
Yeah, so I've thought about, I think one thing I haven't done yet is I haven't really built out my about page on school. Everyone who's coming to me is coming from a piece of content I've done.
Okay.
So I definitely need to do that.
Got it.
And what was the other thing I was going to say? I don't know. I guess how do you calculate cost per acquisition if your cost is your time doing content to bring people in? You know what I mean?
That is a great point. Valuable point. So I think everybody should put a dollar amount on their time.
Mm-hmm.
If you're making $200,000 a year, $100 an hour. It's 200,000 divided by 2,000. Your time is worth $100 an hour. So if it takes you an hour to be creative and come up with one piece of content, you spend $100 on that. What I think is probably a better way to think about it is once you create something that works. So I'm a big believer in testing. You test. You find something and this is the hard part about the internet. You don't get proper attribution. So you don't really, if you're running like we're doing this right now, we're running 5 different ads, 5 different pieces of creative with ads to the community. I don't know which one's working because I can't attribute it to which video. And so that's where you get into that nebulous area. But if you can try to estimate the conversion rate, and you can estimate how much you're spending on it, then it's like, okay, I tested this video creative and it worked. Now I just need to put ads behind it and target the right kind of people that I want. It's all about targeting and with the right creative, and then you can scale even faster.
Okay, interesting. So what I could do as I'm creating my organic content, if I have one video that really, really hits, gets me a ton of new members, try to rework that into an ad scenario, and then
just put ads on that. Just put ads behind that. Don't rework it. Just put ads behind it.
Yes. I guess I don't know why I even didn't think about that. Is like just putting a little bit behind it on TikTok even. And
yes, 100% do that.
Love it.
Then track where I think a lot of people, and again, I like the data side of things. I think where most people that don't like the data side of things is they don't build out tracking. Like they don't build out it's really hard. And this is I would consider you more creative than the analytical side. Is that fair to say? Okay. So I'm more analytical than I am creative, right? So when people are like, you give me a spreadsheet, a financial spreadsheet, I could dissect it in 30 seconds, right? That's my wheelhouse. Creativity, not so much. So we all have our strengths, but I do think when you start running ads and marketing, you definitely want to be able to understand, I did this, this is the result. If I do more of this, I should expect more of these results. And being able to tie those two things together is really, really critical, because then you can understand how I allocate money to grow the business as fast as possible.
Sure, that makes sense. And honestly, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, most people have these limiting beliefs in their head around budget or margin. And it's fascinating. I've seen it so many times where people are like, oh, I can't spend any more money on ads because I need to make 20% margin. And you're like, where did that 20% come from? I don't know. That's what I think I need to make. And you're like, do you get paid in margin or do you get paid in dollars? Last time I checked, I want more dollars, not margin percentage, right? So I think there's a lot of things that people can really think about when they're doing the marketing or they're growing it. And then also, how big do you want this to be? Like, what is the goal? Is it 500 members? Is it 1,000 members? Is it turn into the agency? Does it turn into masterminding? Does it turn into a workshop? How do you think about that? That would be a really what's the goal? Because maybe you want to keep it small. Maybe you want to charge $500 a month and keep it at 100 people.
Yeah. So the nature, I've asked myself that. I feel like I have two different images in my mind right now, because I feel like what I want as what I need in my life right now for myself and my own community is a group of advanced creators, advanced people. So I feel like that could be its own thing. What I'm currently doing in the community I'm building is teaching people who are kind of just starting out how to make money on TikTok Shop. So I feel like it is two different things. The just starting group, I feel like I could grow very, very large. And I feel like the churn rate of that will be quicker because as like kind of what I did with my community, as I kind of learned and grew, I don't spend my, even though I love that community, I don't spend my time there very much anymore because it's not valuable to me. I've leveled up and I'm out doing my own.
You moved
Right.
on.
So I feel like
Yep.
the group I'm building right now, I kind of see it as a larger, more people, but kind of maybe quicker turnaround time. I don't know if it's something I should think about starting another group for the more advanced people, or that's just something I personally like am looking for in my life. Maybe I need to pay to be in a group like that. That's just something interesting.
No, make it yourself, Abby.
Really?
Make it yourself. Don't. Yeah. No. I mean, this is a great problem. Again, I'll call it a problem. It's a good first world problem. And that, you know, when I was paying in the beginning, when I started doing e-commerce, I paid a lot of money to go to an event, like 10 grand, right? And I go to an event and we're at dinner and we're like, why do we pay this guy? Like, we're all doing presentations. He did like one presentation. I'm like, well, we paid him essentially to put us in the room. That's the real value, right? And so then one of the other guys and I were like, well, wait, we all know each other now. We'll always do our own thing. So then we created a mastermind. This is, and nobody makes any money off it. I'm not saying you have to go that route, but the value was that you had to bring value to the group, to the meetings. And if you didn't, we asked you not to come anymore. And that created such an attraction that we've never had a shortage of people wanting to be guests or people to join. And then everybody learns together. And that's been the really big lesson we've learned. And then we get house, we do fun stuff, we get a chef, we do it right. Everybody puts in money. And it doesn't end up being that much money. You know, usually we do it here in Scottsdale, but this one would be Seattle. And then that everybody leverages together. And then we have monthly calls and we have a WhatsApp group and stuff like that. But the real value of that is you find like-minded people. And what I have found is I would consider yourself an expert on shops. You don't want to hang out with the newbies. Right. As you mature and evolve, it gets really tiring to be like, how do I download TikTok? Right? So you have to separate the up-and-comer newbie with the advanced. And I don't know if there's a perfect way to do that, whether you do that in, you know, different channels or you do that in a completely separate group. What I've seen to be really successful is they have like a feeder group, like a free one, and they bring everybody in that wants to learn. And then it's like, okay, now we have a much more expensive group that is advanced. And most advanced people, I have a buddy, he won't go do anything unless it's 10 grand. Because he thinks that the people going are not at his level. So he uses the price as a filter for quality.
Which, I mean, honestly.
So I think if you do a paid group, don't be cheap. Go higher.
Interesting. So if we were talking about, okay, let's say I want to do a group with advanced people because I want my peers to, like you said, I just want to be in the same room of people. And that mastermind you were talking about, do you all like, is there any one person making money? Like, is there any one leader of the group? Okay.
I'd say I facilitate the group. My co-founder lives in Europe and he dropped out for COVID. We have a board of directors. So we have 5 people, 11 core members, 5 people on the board that we sometimes rotate through on an annual basis. And we're responsible for, you know, deciding the guests. And we typically have 3 to 4 guests every event. And so I think we have 4 guests this time. And then typically we pick a target, like, hey, last one was TikTok shops. So our guests, all related to TikTok shops. And so we bring them in. If they're really amazing fits, sometimes we add them as permanent members. But then, so I think we each put in like $2,000 per event. And then that covers the houses, the chef, the fun activities. And we used to do them all over the world. And now we just do them in a location that's more convenient for a few of us. Which is Scottsdale.
Yeah.
So, but we used to travel and do all that. And then we have an assistant that's there and makes, you know, coffee runs and gets snacks for everybody. And so we've got a process around this. I don't think it's the only way. I think you can make money doing this also, but you have to have the system built. You know, we've done this now 20 times, right? So we've got a process. We got a schedule. Everything's dialed in. So it's easy now to do a new one every time, right? So we don't have to do much as the board to do that. But I think that's the true value. And then by taking away somebody's access, if they don't add, and we're a little bit survivor on this. Like, you have to vote at the end. You have to force rank everybody. So you vote everybody, you rank everybody at the mastermind. And obviously these are all successful people who rarely have finished in the last position in any of their life. And so if you're in the bottom 3, 2 out of 3 masterminds for a year, we ask you not to come in.
Interesting. Oh, I like this.
So it's ruthless, Abby, but it works because now I got guys that sell $100 million on Amazon who are like, hey man, what should I present? I'm nervous. Like, I don't know what I should present this. So they put effort in. When people just pay, they show up and just want to just receive, right? So it changes the dynamic so that the group gets better together. So I think some combination of some of those things and paid, especially if you're the one putting it on and putting everything together, is a really good
interesting
fit.
Yeah. So because I asked because I was just thinking like, okay, I know, some elite creator friends that I would love to have in a community, but I wouldn't want them to be paying me to be, I think we would all be equal contributors of this community, even if I'm the one who created it. So that's just something I've been toying, like maybe I need that on my side just to grow. And then I have my more beginner community as a paid.
But you could so here's an idea. You could grandfather them in at free. And then as you add to the group, you charge.
Yeah.
I mean, that's something I'm looking at seriously doing right now for business owners, for e-commerce brand owners. There's a few of us who I'm hosting a call every week, a handful of us who are focused on TikTok, and I got a bunch of other friends who are semi-focused on it or trying to be. And so, build a community and put those people in the group and then charge for people that want to be a part of the group that can add value.
No, I could see that for sure.
I think that's a really good model because trust me, it's more work than it sounds like. You're going to be putting time and energy into it. And I call it herding cats. Like literally I have to, and mostly guys, I have to walk outside on break and grab these guys by the neck and pull them back in half the time to start the next presentation. So like it is a little bit of work. Entrepreneurs are a little bit spacey sometimes and they focus on other things. So herding all the cats can be a challenge sometimes.
Oh, that's cool. I think that's a really cool model.
So I know we went long. I know we could talk for a long time. This is great. I do want to say thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us and share your experience. Love to stay in contact. And if there's anything I can do to help you, I would love to help in any way.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. It was so great to meet you. And I'm excited to see what else is in store.
All right. Thanks, Abby. I appreciate it.
If you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe, leave a review, and share with friends. And if you're an entrepreneur interested in coming on the show, visit therobgreenshow.com to get in touch. Stay curious and never stop learning, improving, or growing.